Okay, so today we are excited to have our friend Amber Wilborne with us. And I'm going to tell you, Jay, she has quite the confession. Oh, she is going to be sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly about caregiving. And I think we all can relate. So like Amber, she's been a caregiver, but honestly, she is just so much more. And I cannot wait for our listeners to be able to know a little bit more about Amber. So Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Amber, our amazing sister in care?
Yeah, you don't have to tell me because I've got her bio. So I've got all the good information. I know. So Amber, she's called Southwest Virginia her home all of her life. We went to school in Roanoke, so we love it up there, Amber. She is married to Tim, and they share two amazing kids, a son and a daughter. That's a little hard for me to believe because they're both teenagers. So she's going to have to tell us how she manages that. She and Tim have owned their own business, TW Controls, since 2006, and they work with a variety of industrial and manufacturing companies. Now, most recently, they added training of maintenance technicians in their field, I guess, just to keep it interesting because she doesn't have.
They didn't have enough to do.
You didn't have enough on her plate.
Don't worry about it.
What I love about Amber is that she has a servant heart as a member of her local Rotary Club she serves. And then she also serves communities around the world, which we are hoping to learn more about today. She's also here today to share another act of serving and care with her mother, who was a 24-year fighter of breast cancer, which is an amazing story in itself. Amber, we are so happy to have you here today with us.
Amber.
Finally, thank you. I'm honored.
So go ahead, share with us kind of where that journey started for you.
Well, after I sent my bio to you, I was like, oh, I should tell them something else. So on a side note, I've known my husband for 35 years.
Wow.
We met in middle school when he moved here from Danville, Virginia, and I knew his family. And so it was just kind of easy to say yes to go out on a date with him.
Well, you said 35 years, and I was like, well, our listeners can't
Amber's
really
only 36.
So we're like, yeah, I mean, that was like, preschool Amber. So that was really good.
Oh, I love you guys. I really want to be like your best buddies. Like, this is awesome.
Honorary sister.
Yeah. So yeah, it was interesting to talk to Natalie about our caregiving journeys, really. And Mom did have metastatic breast cancer for 24 years. She fought it, and she had 4 episodes of it. Mm-hmm. The first time we thought, oh, this is the doom and gloom day. She's not going to survive it. We're not going to make it through this. And after, she had a double mastectomy, she had 34 lymph nodes taken out, reconstructive surgery because she had to have her boobies. And that'll probably be censored. Sorry, but
we don't censor anything.
No censoring, Amber. Sorry.
Good, because my favorite word is pissed.
Yeah.
But she got through it within 2 years, chemo, and then they put her on a maintenance drug or cancer drug, and it seemed to go well. And then a couple years later, she had
let me ask before you go, because I'm like interrupting Cal. So the first round, did you support your mom? Because I mean, this is really kind of your journey too with your mom. What was the kind of level of support like she needed at that point? Because you started being a caregiver 24 years ago then.
Well, and what I tell people, and I don't mean this anything against her, she took her anger of cancer out on me, but I'm also the middle child and the strongest. So it was okay. Like, everything I was doing was, I was also 22.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you were 22 years old the first time your mom had cancer, and you were probably, so now we see this is how this interrupting Cal works. Did you have other siblings?
Yes. So my brother is 6 years older than me. My sister is 6 years younger than me. And at the time, my stepfather was taking very good care of her. Yeah. So I really wasn't needed. And it was probably a good idea for me to not be around at the time. Mm-hmm. But like you'll hear later, we discussed all that the year and a half that we had before she passed. And it's totally fine. Like I said, I'm the strong one of the family. Everybody comes to me when there's a crisis, and I'm really good in a crisis. I'm really good on my feet. So it didn't really bother me to say, yeah. And so, and then the second time it came up, it was like a little spot on her lung. It was not a big deal. Our tumor markers were pretty solid. So they just kept on with the maintenance drug. And then her third time was when I was pregnant with my daughter, and it had moved to her ovaries and cervix and uterus. So she had a complete hysterectomy, more chemotherapy. They were calling it maintenance chemo at the time.
Yeah.
And then they put her on another maintenance drug. And she really thrived after that. She was doing really well. She was getting back on her feet. But I will say, in between all of this, I skipped ahead. My mom has been through quite a lot in her years, and what got me back home. So I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina when she was okay. I was like, okay, she's okay. I followed a boy, of course.
Don't we all?
So I went to Charlotte, North Carolina. I lived there for about 4 years, and about 2005, something was just stirring in me. And I was like, I felt like the Lord was saying, you need to get home. And so I was interviewing and trying to get back home. And I had an interview on March 1st, and Mom had an accident that same day.
Wow.
Oh, dear.
And bless her heart, she got knocked off of a loading dock. The wind hit the back of a furniture closet just enough to knock her down. And she had broken bones in her face, and she broke both of her elbows, both of her wrists, and her boobies deflated.
Oh no!
Oh my
Lord!
Well, she'd had those boobies put in. I feel like the word for today is going to be boobies. Your boobies put in, and then they deflated. Oh gosh, that's insult to injury. Your face breaks and everything breaks, and your boobies deflate.
And she was more pissed off about the fact that she had to have reconstructive surgery again. She was like, like that's so frustrating.
She sounds like she was a spirited soul. I got to tell you, like she's got some fight in her, Amber.
She has a lot of fight in her, and thank God she's passed it on to me. And everybody tells me, you remind me of your mother. You look like your mother, and I take that as a compliment because she was a crazy, amazing woman. But after that accident, I moved back because I took care of her.
Yeah.
So that was your first. So would that be in your mind? Because do you think that you were a long distance caregiver? Because a lot of people, one of the biggest problems, and we talk about this a lot, is people don't realize they're caregivers. They think, oh, I'm just doing what I'm doing as a daughterly role. And the reality is we've been long distance caregivers for our mom, and Emily's the primary, but we've been long distance caregivers for the last since our dad passed at 11 years. And honestly, even more because we supported our dad. So would you consider yourself, looking back on it now, kind of thinking about it, I did provide support to her, or just?
I did. When I lived in Charlotte, our relationship was really good.
Yeah.
And, I was living far away. You want to constantly be in contact with your family. And I'm really close with particular people of my family, and she was one of them. And so I felt like from a distance, I was always checking in. How are your tumor markers? What's new? How's work? How are you feeling? So I think that's why in 2005, I was like, I need to get home. I was homesick, and I wasn't happy in Charlotte. The boy broke my heart. And left me on my own.
This is a romance. This is it's a story of boobs. I mean, this is all kinds of stuff now.
Boobies, romance, and broken hearts. I'm telling you.
And faces, but whatever.
Yeah. And elbows.
And elbows.
But I took care of her through that, and started my new job and moved back from Charlotte. It seemed like it happened all at once, but it was within a 3-month span of time. And luckily, when she was okay, I went out with girlfriends, and here walks in my husband to be.
Oh, well, that's convenient.
Yeah.
And
Went all the way to Charlotte and so you could come back and find your husband.
Yeah.
I think that's the Lord, because I was outside and I saw him, and I'm telling you, Jesus was kicking me in the butt, telling me, that's him. Hello. That's him.
I have put you through all this to come back here, and I have put him before you. So
that's like God's plan's going around your elbow to get to your rear. God's like, don't be judging about my plan. Elbow, rear. You're like, I was there the whole time. You could have just saved me some time and some money.
It's like, really? And I mean, and, you know, our first date was like July 8th, and we got married 3 months later on October 8th.
Oh, hello.
There ain't no wasting time. That's called living your life. Boom.
Yeah.
Done.
I was like, I like you, and we're going to do this. And
so your mom is recuperating during that time.
Yeah.
But,
and she was even more excited when she saw Tim pick me up for our first date. And she was like, thank you, Jesus.
She's thinking, I did that. This was all my fault that you're getting married. If I hadn't fallen off that dock, this would have never happened.
Yeah. And, you know, she's, to me, my mother is resilient, because she had that accident, went back to work 3 months later.
Oh my gosh.
And just kept on working. And like I said, you know, circling back, the cancer came back in 2008. She had surgery. I was very pregnant with my daughter, Wendell. And she got through that, and we're like, okay, well, that's gotta be it. Like, there's nowhere else this cancer can go.
Right.
Like, it's attacked everything, and COVID and stress and all that, and cancer just reared its ugly little head and attacked her pulmonary lining of her lungs.
Wow. So at that point, because I know that you've been supporting your mom from a distance or locally. So you've gone from distance to local. You kept getting closer, like the nest kind of come back to the nest. And then at what point, because I know it, you had to ultimately quit your job, because you and your husband have your own business.
Yes.
And you're pregnant, you're exceptionally pregnant. And so how was that kind of decision made? Because I don't think you just say, hey, I think I'm going to quit my job, because you all have a small business.
Well, and during that time, because I was so pregnant and the things, and he was traveling a lot, and I was also taking care of our children are a year and a half apart. And so I was kind of full-time mom at that time, and just kind of being in the background of the business. And so it was easy for me to be at her side. But again, she's resilient. She came out of this like, no big deal, you know? And so she was fine for, I mean, what was that? 12 years until it came back again. And then she was also working 2 jobs at the time. My mom was a lunch lady at an elementary school, and she was working at Dollar Tree because she can't sit still.
Wow.
And I was like, whatever, Mom, whatever.
Just keep going.
And, you know, when it came back in December of 2020, nobody knew. I think she was trying to see where it was going to go, and or if it was COVID, or if she was just stressed. And and you'll appreciate all of this when I get done telling it. Before that December of 2020, we got a new car because I had a stick shift, and second gear and reverse went out, and I thought I still could drive it, but my husband was like, no, you need a new car. And I was like, oh, right. So we got a new car, an automatic, and I was putting together one of our trainers, which is what our students or our technicians use. And I was holding a drill and impact, and it went one way, and my shoulder did something it shouldn't have. And it ended up, I had 2 tears on my rotator cuff.
Holy cow.
Goodness.
I knew I was going to have surgery. So it's always just been Tim and myself, which has been great. But I was like, honey, you can't do this alone. I'm going to be recovering for 6 months. Like, I won't be able to do anything. And so we hired my best friend, Mary.
to go work in the business.
Yeah. So and she's always been a part of our family, and she is good with my kids, and she knows my husband and us. And so it was a really good fit. And that was also timing. She called and we had just had the conversation. She called and then came in and we hired her. It was,
Wow.
One thing I will say, and I meant to say this at the beginning, I believe in the Lord's timing.
Absolutely.
Bottom line.
Yep.
Everybody's like, oh, everything happens for a reason. It does.
Yeah.
It does. He has the plan set out before you. So this was his timing. I was going to have surgery in January, on January 12th. And the day before that of 2021, I get so lost with pandemic time. Do you guys get lost?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
When?
I'm telling you, I'm like constantly like, what year is it? She had called the day before I had surgery and pretty much told the family what was going on, that the cancer was back. It was in the pulmonary lining of her lungs. And they were going to start talking about next steps. So I had surgery, and during my recovery, we started making plans. So they wanted to try a maintenance drug again, and it only made things worse. She ended up having 2 catheters, one in her right lung, one in her left lung, because it was building up so much fluid, and that fluid was testing as cancerous. It wasn't helping. She ended up being on oxygen. The going to doctor's appointments and making the notes, and I had to Google everything, because the spelling of some of these drugs and what they want to do was just totally out of my realm. And I've got a whole book at home of just nothing but notes on all of her appointments, all of her primary care physician, all of her oncologists, all of her cardiologists, her lung doctor, so on and so on. And luckily, I had the time to do that because I was recovering from surgery.
Yeah.
Also, my husband just knew, and he was very much like, you need to be with your mom. You need to spend every moment with her, take this time and use it as a gift. And I totally agreed with him. And during that time of, being with her, taking care of her, even taking her to her doctor's appointments, I always made sure I had the morning routine with my kids and the evening routine with my kids. I needed to keep that consistent. I took them to their dentist appointments. I took them to their orthodontist appointments, doctor's appointments. I wanted to make sure that I was still playing that role and that nothing would change. But also, we were very honest with our kids. We told them everything about my mom, who was their Nene. That's what my son called her, Nene. We were very open, very honest. We told them to ask as many questions as they wanted to, because they're teenagers. I'm not going to sit there and try to put on a fake face, knowing that they understand and know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so I think this is so interesting, because you hit on a couple of things. I think even that, in our other podcasts, we've not really talked about is the other roles of a caregiver that are very commonplace. So you talked about having a binder, and I know we're trying a new app right now, testing it out for Team CarePal. Just like, how do we collect the information? How do you keep it in a place? I know that's what I was doing in New York. I have notebooks and all of Jason's meds, and I just have to keep them all. And I'm thinking, he's got 15 meds, and I'm having, you're keeping track of it. Oh, and then you're also a sandwich generation caregiver, because you've got your children and you're trying not. Did you ever feel any guilt there? Like, oh, I'm not spending enough time? Or do you feel like, I did it? Oh, I see the look on your faces. I had guilt. Yeah. She's shaking her head saying, yep, I had the guilt.
I had the guilt, even though I was still trying to keep everything consistent. I did feel guilty that I was taking time away from them to be with mom, or time away from my husband.
Yeah. How did that go too? I was wondering about that, because a lot of people talk about, making sure they focus on their kids. What about your husband, your relationship there?
During the time that my mother was battling this last cancer, he was very supportive, very much giving me my freedom, very much like I said, oh, I want to take mom to the beach for a long weekend. He's like, do it. I'll help you find the Airbnb, he was very supportive and would still be today if it was still going on. So I'm very appreciative to him. I'm so grateful. It was, it's more of the aftermath of when she was gone that everything just started settling in, like weird past things were coming up. And I was fighting all these, I don't want to call them demons, but it was just like, what is happening to me? And I had fear and trust issues, and I don't know where they came from. So recognizing it, a couple months right before mom passed, I went and saw a therapist. And I thank the good Lord above for my therapist, because she made me feel like I was normal, but she also gives me the tools, to get these thoughts out of my head. And you don't realize that when you are, and Natalie, you probably understand, you guys will probably understand this, when you're constantly like focused on one thing and trying to keep all these other elements normal, you forget to take care of yourself, and you forget to take care of your mental health and self-care. And I forgot to do that.
I totally feel you. And that was one thing we talked about in a previous conversation. Amber and I had at Rotary in front of desserts, and I was telling the girls that we scared everybody away because we were crying, and they were. I think.
And that, I'm going to jump in here because that kind of interested me. So because caregivers are everywhere, so you guys started this conversation in front of the dessert table. Like, is that that's my curiosity here, because people are so uncomfortable about talking about care or crisis. So what was said? Like, did you just go up to the table, or Amber, did you just say, hey, my mom has breast cancer. Hey, Natalie, that's, I mean, is that how that happened? I mean, really, I
knew her husband had been sick, and I knew that I haven't seen her. And
I had a terrible attendance.
Okay.
I would ask a mutual friend. I would say, hey, have you heard any news on Natalie? What's going on with her husband? So she kept me informed.
Okay. Yeah.
So when I saw her that day, I got really excited, and I was like, hey, what's going on?
But do you think that commonality is because that she understood also? Like, is there that kind of like, oh my gosh, I know how she feels, more than like you knew and she knows the experiences?
Oh yeah. Well, you can feel it from her too. Like, you can always, I'm a good reader of people, and you can always know that you can have that conversation with someone, have common ground, but also have your own story, because everybody's story is different.
Absolutely.
Which is wonderful. And so there just wasn't enough time for her and I to talk about everything.
At the dessert table.
Yeah, at the dessert table.
It was a really good holiday party. It was such a good holiday party, and we're crying.
I like how you just showed up for the holiday party, Natalie.
It was timely. And so, what? I'm going to go back to Amber. God works in mysterious ways. I don't think I ever would have had that conversation had Amber, but I had asked Amber, I think we need to talk to the other business leaders, because Rotary is about service. It's business leaders. And so I said, I really want to talk about this and how Caregiver needs our business issues. And she was like, yeah. And then she said, my mom had cancer. And then it just like, we both just like, and we just started talking about it. And we found so many things that we related to, but mostly the hard. Like, this was like, oh crap, this was really bad, or this was really awful. And this is how I felt. And to be able to have someone that was like, me too, felt so good. I didn't want you to go through the bad, but I'm like, damn, it wasn't just me.
I mean, and that's what I think a lot of people, I would say our older generation, older than us, don't understand. I was pissed off a lot. Many conversations with God in the car. I think that's why I love driving so much, because it's just me and him, and I'm having honest conversations and cussing and upset and why me? And then, I'm trying to gather myself before I get home for my family, but it's okay to be pissed off, and it's okay to not feel guilty about being pissed off.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people, especially in a caregiving position, they don't feel like they have that freedom to be angry or to be sad or to cry in front of the dessert table and not have to explain yourself to everybody else, because I'm past that now.
Hey, ladies, I need to interrupt for just a second to share about the Sisterhood membership. It's basically a sale every day. And the best part, it's free. Here's the details. We're partnering with our friends at Benefit Hub and other care partners to save you money. With over 200,000 participating companies across the US and abroad, you'll find discounts at your favorite local stores, huge savings on vacations, amazing deals on home, auto, and supplemental insurances, and everything in between. Go to confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com to sign up, and then definitely tell your friends about it. They can join too. Trust me, there's a discount for everyone. And don't forget, it's free. Okay, back to confessing. I love when you said to me, I think you're a good Christian who happens to curse.
Yeah, I love Jesus, but I cuss a lot.
Yeah, that was what she said to me in front of the dessert table. And I'm like, dude, we're going to be friends. And so it's on my treatment plan. So here's the thing. You said that when you were with your mom, did your mom move in with you guys, or did you live independently and you're just supporting her every day?
So she lived with my stepfather, but they're aged, they're aging parents, and he did what he could.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm the more energetic, organized one who would remember dates, who would remember the appointments. And so I would drop the kids off at the bus every morning and go to Salem, which is like a 15 or 20-minute drive, and either just stay with mom the whole day, or we would go to appointments, or I would take her out to get her out of the house. And it wasn't every day, but it was most days.
Yeah.
And we also had to learn how to empty our catheters when we went on vacation. The whole family, fortunately, was able to go on one more, beach vacation together. But we had to learn how to empty her catheters and how to put lidocaine cream on her port. That's a funny story. Let me tell you about that. I don't do well with broken bones or things out of the skin. And my stepdad was usually the one that prepped her for me to take her to chemo. And he wasn't there. And I had to put that lidocaine cream on there. And my mom goes, Amber, you're turning white. Where are you going? I was just like,
So you passed out.
I nearly passed out. And
you're totally a sister.
You're in with good company because 2 out of the 3 of us pass out all the time. If you look at our blog, we pass out all the time.
I don't do well with, I'm great with blood, boogers, puke, other bodily fluids. I'm just not great with bony things. It's a mystery to me when my son broke his arm, why I went to the emergency room with him and not dad. I threw up.
Why?
I threw up 3 times in the emergency room, and they were like, Mrs. Wilborne, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. Just do the thing. I'm fine.
Just put it in a cast. I don't want to see it.
I get your mom's spirit coming through you, because I could see your mom probably being very strong-willed, and that's we know that can be positive, and we know that can be very hard when you're a caregiver. So your mom's you're strong-willed, and which is a gift, and also, as my mother would say to me, a curse for me. And so I know that you talked to me a little bit about, like, you all worked through some stuff. You took the opportunity and you were able to work through that. And then how you felt after your mom passed. Why don't you kind of talk a little bit around that too?
When we were spending time together, she would vent a lot, and we would have these hard conversations, and our relationship had been rocky. I'm much like her, but I'm not much like her when it comes to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there were some disagreements on holidays and birthdays, and probably she didn't agree totally of how we were raising our kids, but she was proud. And, that kind of led to a couple of disagreements and some misunderstandings because, things can get lost in translation. And during this time, we were having really good, deep conversations, which was, I've never heard her open up as much as she did to me, and also be so willing to understand my position on a lot of things, in life. And it only made our relationship so much better. It was a gift. It was a gift. It was a gift of time. That was God working, because she's from a generation and also an area in Virginia where they don't talk about feelings, and they don't say the sorry or the apologies, and not very verbal about those things. And so that was a huge turning point for our relationship. And when she passed, I felt relieved, but I don't feel guilty about it. I feel a huge sense of relief for her, because she's not suffering through this for another 24 years, and she doesn't have to fight anymore. She's in a place where cancer, there's no cancer where she's at,
Right.
And so I was relieved, and I was also it was like a celebration in her honor. She was a remarkable woman, very strong-willed, she was also the glue that kept our family together. And I think a lot of our family or our relatives look to me to be the glue, and I'm like, no, like I'm not that.
So after everything's over, because were your siblings involved with the in between? Because I hear you saying you saw her daily and that sort of thing. How was that? Did the caregiving for your mom impact your relationship with your siblings?
It did. So my brother and I are very, very, very close, and he was part of that caregiving journey as well. Also works really hard, and we're very close. My sister, she is a teacher, and she has a little one, so it was very difficult for her to I guess one process, and also to figure out time, because she would be so tired at the end of the day from teaching, and then also taking care of her little man. So it made a lot of sense.
Okay. And so that felt like that was like, okay. Cause I can tell you, we have our roles within that we do.
And our strengths. And we all tap into those.
Right.
That's my brother and I are like that. So I know what my brother's strengths are, and he knows what my strengths are, and we feed off of each other. We always have since we were kids. My little sister is actually my half sister, and she is a very well-educated individual, and she's a teacher, and I have relatives that are teachers, and I get it. Like, the day's done, you can't comprehend much of anything.
Yeah. Well, and your mom was clearly lucky she had 3. It took 3 for our mom. And so that's a village. It does take a full village, and our Aunt Jane. And so that's what we like to joke. And our Aunt Jane, her sister, and anybody else that we can find and recruit. So after your mom passed, I know we talked about that, because a lot of people, it was funny, Jay, if you remember from the care colloquium, we had one person was saying, everybody feels, I had this terrible grief, and I was grieving my dad, and that hits everybody differently.
Right.
So you're now like, and this happened to me, and we talked about this at length. And then what happens? Because now you're done. Your job has been caregiving for this window of time. And so how do you get back and find normalcy?
Because everybody says, oh, well, you're done. The job's over. You should
Done.
move back in and your life is perfect again.
Get over it.
It's not that easy. It is not that easy. And I felt so lost coming back to work. And that's nothing on Tim and that's nothing on our employee Mary. It was me. I didn't know what my role was going to be. I didn't know where things were headed. And I'm still trying to figure it out. I mean, it's been 7 months since her passing. But again, I have an incredible husband who's like, well, where do you feel like your passions are? What do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know.
Oh,
give me a Kleenex. I don't know what I want to do.
I totally relate to feeling lost.
So lost. And it's like trying to find your place. And it's with many things. Like I took a break from Rotary and then came back and I was like, I was so lost.
It is because you've changed. And that's the thing is you don't realize it's going to change you like it does. And then now what?
Right.
And how do you feel like you've gotten back? Because I know you said you and I talked about how it impacted our relationships with our spouses. Like, I mean, Jason reminded me, I told you this at Rotary, not allowed to talk about certain things, Natalie. And so it was hard for me to reestablish. I mean, it's 7 months later, and I'm just now kind of reestablishing myself in my wife role versus my caregiver role. How does that feel for you guys?
It's about the same. You know, I still have moments where I'm just like, we hit a blip of sadness and it's okay. And my husband's father passed away, I think 10 years ago or 9 years ago. But so he understands the grief, but also getting back to us and getting back to cooking. Like I wasn't cooking every night and I love to cook. That's like my safe haven. That's where, I mean, I'm in my zone. It's like, do not come in my kitchen. I'm cooking and I love feeding my family. My mother did too. And so that was another thing that we discovered over Christmas break. I was cooking every meal and everybody was like, thank you. Thank you so much. I was like, you know, because they know that mommy is very chaotic. And so they've been just waiting for me to come back. And I'm starting to feel like I'm getting a good rhythm back. And I'm starting to feel like I know where I'm going. I just can't say on the podcast yet, but
when we have her back, she'll tell us.
I will.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, well, and I think, you had mentioned you and your husband really had to start dating again because Jason and I did. We started dating.
Yeah, and Tim started Saturdays as date days. And if we didn't go during the day, we would go at night. But if I miss a Saturday date day, he's like, well, I guess we're not going to have date day. And he gets all gushy on me. But yeah, we're dating again. And I love it. And
I love that.
I think that's good for every relationship, though. I think we all need to carve out that time. So I think that's incredibly important.
A lot of people don't understand. Yes, I work with him every day, but I may not talk to him or see him every day. And so at the end of the night, he's very intentional at asking me how my day was, even though he just saw me 5 minutes ago. We're like, how was your day? Let's break it down. And he's always been like that. He's a good dude.
That's awesome.
I feel like everybody wants to marry Tim. I feel like he should be on there as well. We're like, okay, guys.
Can we clone him?
Can we does Tim have a brother for Emily who's tall? We're going to need him to be at least 6'1" or taller.
He's the tallest in his family.
Please don't tell me he's 5'4". So, because I know Amber is short. And so I was like, don't tell me
he's 6'2", 6'1".
Perfect. So if he's got a twin, we're perfect. Emily has twins, terribly convenient. So, I just, I feel like it's time for sister time. I feel like it's time for questions. And so this is the time, Amber, number one, I love that you share with us. I think it's so important to hear because it sounds like you had ups and downs, you had resolution. At the end, when your mom passed, you were able to move forward. But the big thing that we've never heard anybody talk about is that you had grief counseling in advance of it.
Yeah, I just knew something. I felt that, like, again, I trust my gut, and I felt the stirring, and I knew if I didn't get ahead of a lot of these things now, not only the grief, but, the fear and the trust, I knew I was just going to be, I would not be able to come back from it.
And that's insightful. You've got to know yourself and trust your gut. That's definitely it. So
absolutely.
Emily.
Yes.
Dun, 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 dun.
Send the question.
I was sitting there thinking of our normal questions, and I'm like, oh, I don't like those.
You can ask anything you want.
Anything you want.
Anything you want.
I'm an open book.
I love it. Yeah. Essentially, I'm kind of wondering, in the beginning when you started taking care of your mom, you were this certain person, you were doing your ways with your kids, but coming out on the end of it, did you have like an aha moment of like, okay, this is me now? Like what are some things that changed for you that were for the best?
Good question.
Boundaries. People talk about it all the time, and I was like, I don't know what that is. Sorry, a chapstick moment. I never understood boundaries, and I know that my husband was hoping that one day I would find a way to say no and not have FOMO and be okay with missing out on birthday or like parties and going out or socializing as much as I used to. Now I say no a lot, and I really love the word no. And
I love that.
He sees it, and he knows that I'm building up boundaries. I've built up boundaries with, I can honestly say now I have a handful of good friends, and really that's all you need. And they're the ones that supported me during all of this. And stuck through everything. And also 9 o'clock hits, I want to be in my pajamas at
preach.
7 or 8 o'clock. I want to be in my pajamas and then go to bed at 8 so I can fall asleep at 9. That's part of my self-care. And I came out of it, and I was like, one day I was with my therapist, and I was having a good cry moment, because you got to have those. And I said, you know what? I love me more now than I have ever loved myself. I was like, I am woman, hear me roar, because coming out of this, I don't take shit from anybody. I mean, you don't cross over me. You definitely don't cross over my kids or my husband, but I love to say no.
I love to say no. I feel like that's going to be the title of this episode. I love to say no. My husband would be like, yes, she does.
Yeah. All right, Natalie, I know you've got the favorite question, so hit it.
Okay, I'm ready. Amber, this is the favorite sister question. What is your favorite guilty pleasure?
I bowl on Sunday nights in a league.
I would not have seen that coming. I did not see that coming.
I'd never seen it.
Would have never thought it. And what color is your ball?
Well, I used to have an old ball that was glitter and pink, but my brother surprised me at Christmas with a new ball. It's black with red flames.
Oh, even
nice.
Better.
I gotta say, we've had no confession like that, Amber. Nobody's going to be able to touch that.
Glitter or on fire.
I'm
just saying. And with that, I am going to shut Natalie down, Amber, and say, Amber, we have had a wonderful time with you. We have talked about all kinds of.
We've talked about boobies and
balls
and
date day,
Amber,
and naps after date day.
Amber, thank you so much for joining us today.
I love it.
And thank our audience so much for listening to us. We know that you have learned a lot from Amber, because Lord knows we have. So Thank you guys so much again. Thanks, Amber, for
Thanks,
joining
Amber.
us.
I
Thanks,
appreciate
Amber.
you.
All right.